guys, what's up? It's Steph, and today we're here to do a book talk, which, first book talk of 2018, we're starting off strong. This was the last book I read in 2017, and that is Ascending the Boneyard by C.G. Watson. This book, very interesting, but before we get into me talking, look, I actually used my post-it notes. Can you see them? My tiny little post-it notes to make marks and remember things to talk about. So that's going to be really exciting. Let me give you a rundown of the book before we get started. Ascending the Boneyard by C.G. Watson was published in February of 2016 by Simon Pulse. This story follows Caleb Tosh, who, after suffering some really bad family tragedies, immerses himself in the virtual world of the Boneyard in order to escape his reality. However, because of all the time spent in the virtual world, the lines between virtual and reality begin to blend to the point that Tosh can't really distinguish them. And that's really what drew me to the book. I really didn't know I've never heard of this book before. It was in, if you watched my December kind of wrap-up, this was one of the ones I got from Book Outlet. There's too many book things. This was the one I got with the coupon when they sent me it's a $5 coupon, so I got a bunch from the clearance bin. Books I'd never really heard of, I've never really seen. And this one seemed really interesting, dealing with grief and loss and coping, but somehow falling in, you get addicted to your coping mechanism and you can't pull yourself out of it. It seemed like something I hadn't read about before. It's something you always hear about. It's something it's always going on around you. If you're not dealing with it yourself, there's someone dealing with it. You may know dealing with it. You may have heard dealing with it. Loss is something we all know and we all feel, so hearing about how this character would cope with it and get lost in the coping mechanism, it really interested me, so I picked it up. This is one of the first ones I really took extensive notes on. As I've shown you guys before, my little Reptar YouTube planning journal, I have a full page of notes about Ascending the Boneyard. I have the little intro I told you guys, and then throughout it, I have tiny little sticky notes with the arrows, which are really cool because it points me right to the line, right to the little section I want to talk about and thought was important and how they relate back to things. And yeah, that being said, we're gonna start getting into some kind of spoilery talks. So if you just wanted to hear about the book and you're interested in this book about the coping method and getting lost in the coping method and kind of how I described it, I will leave a link down below where you can check it out on Goodreads and you can check out the full description. I kind of paraphrased it. It's not fully what it says. There's still more to be learned. If you want to learn more of this book, like I said, link will be down below. And I hope you're interested in this book because I never heard of it. I like to hear some other people's thoughts on it. I haven't looked at all the reviews on Goodreads. I did leave my own review on Goodreads. I should probably go look at some of the other reviews, see if... It doesn't really have that high of rating. It has about 3 stars. I personally rated it 3 stars, but we're gonna talk about why I rated it 3 stars. So usually I'm right there at about 4 or 5 stars. I'm really good at I'm not good at reviewing books. I mean, I'm really good at giving high stars because if I enjoy the story, I'm gonna rate it good. And if I didn't enjoy the story, it'll probably go to 2 or 3 stars. I don't think I've ever reviewed a 2-star actually. I think the lowest I've ever gone is 3. Let's get into the kind of things I wrote down and want to talk about. So this book, while being very interesting, was also very confusing. Once you get through the first couple chapters, not even the first couple, pretty much the first 2 or 3 chapters, the worlds really start to blend really bad. In the beginning, there's a distinguish between the 2 realities. And you can see it, okay, here is the world he's living in, here is the virtual world that he is jumping into as the real world's happening around him. You don't get to see the first instance of what caused the main jump of I'm going into this virtual world to escape what's happening. But you do get to witness the second event that pushes him further into the game. I'm not sure where to really start with this book. I liked it, although there are parts that it took me out of the immersion just because of how confusing it got at parts. But I did enjoy this book. I thought it was very interesting. The end, definitely, I liked the ending. Although, again, I'm not sure how to describe this book. I had a lot of feelings when reading this book. There was confusion, but there's also admiration for how this was written. It was interesting. It was very interesting. I think one of the things, I wrote it down here. I'm probably going very out of order of how I wanted to talk about this, but what I think about this book is I think it was, I can't say from experience, but it seemed like a kind of PTSD kind of thing with how some of the ways that this video game mixed with his reality and how it became his reality. Like I said, I can't speak from experience, but it kind of felt like the way PTSD is described. I'm not sure. Like I said, if you've checked out this book, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments, because I'd love to have a little discussion about this book. It's very interesting. Maybe sometime sometime this year we'll do a live stream and we can talk about it that way. Because that'd be fun. Maybe we could do something like that. That'd be really fun. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, or I'll leave a poll. How about that? Like, poll time. I know, most times I don't even really introduce polls, just kind of there, but if you want to, like, vote on a poll, like, should we do live streams talking about some of these books? Maybe we could set a book, and at the end of the month we do a live stream. Whatever, would be cool. What do you guys think? I think it would be fun, so let me know what you guys think. Cool. I already said spoilers, but we're gonna go serious spoilers now. It's getting serious, okay? Before, weren't really spoilers. This is spoiler territory. We are in. We are go for spoilers. So it starts out really struggling after his brother's accident, which is the event that was already there and started the game immersion. And then as we're in this first chapter, his mother leaves. Tosh, our main character, his mother leaves, which is the second event that really helps spiral things in the video game and reality mixing out of control. Tosh's mother was in an abusive relationship, and she left. She just left with this pest control guy, but she left her kids with the guy who was abusing her. Why wouldn't you take your kids? That part kind of frustrated me, how she decided to run away from everything, including her children. She had a son who is stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He suffered a very bad accident. And she has Caleb Tosh is 16, I believe. A 16-year-old who's been having to take care of the brother by himself. The brother is 2 years younger than him, so about 13 or 14 at the point the story takes place. It just irritated, the mom character irritated me. We don't really see much of her because she leaves so early on in the book, but she's always referenced back. But it was frustrating me how she decided to leave the abusive relationship, but she decided to leave her children in the abuse. It frustrates me, but I don't know. She was a very meek character. She didn't really speak up for herself. She didn't really try to take charge against her husband until she decided to leave. Which, good for you, girl. Get out of that toxic relationship. But why are you leaving your children in that toxic relationship? Why are you leaving them there in that toxic mix? Maybe she was planning to come back for them. Who knows? It's just, that was something that really irritated me at the beginning. It kind of frustrated me. We're moving on. Alright. Shooting forward into the book, we see that Tosh has decided to set out he's on a mission now. At this point, game terms start mixing into the real world, and he starts mixing terms, and you don't know what's real and what's not. So we're going with that. This where it really starts to get confusing right here. He leaves, he sets out. He has an argument with his friend before he leaves. He's going to leave, and he's going to steal a truck. And his friend's like, dude, you can't just steal some guy's truck. And he's like, make me. If you're supposed to be coming with me. You're supposed to be my friend. You're supposed to be my backup. You're supposed to be my squad. And he's like, nah, fam. Doesn't really say it like that about but it's like, no, this is insane. What are you doing? I'm not going with you if you go in there. And so Tosh is just like, fine, I'm out. He leaves. He has his friend's face mask, and for some reason his friend has like a face mask kind of like, Sub-Zero, but not really, And he sticks it on the seat next to him, and he's talking to it as he's driving. Well, he ends up getting into a crash, and after that point, he wakes up in the car, and his friend is next to him. That's where it really started confusing me, like, what the is happening? I don't know. And then, as we're going into the adventure with his imaginary friend, there's suddenly all these traits that are added to the friend that were never mentioned before. I mean, you got some traits that were mentioned before, but then you have traits like narcolepsy. Suddenly he's a narcoleptic and he'll just pass out, which only happens twice, but still. That was a really random thing to add in for plot convenience. I don't know. And there was something else. I think they never really touched base on the fact that he was supposed to be like some kind of conspiracy theorist. Let me look at my notes really quick. Yeah, being a theorist and a narcoleptic, those were like two traits they kind of threw in. And it's like, what? Since when? Why wasn't this addressed earlier? Why is this barely being addressed now? And it's just like Tosh telling you. It's not like you're really getting that much of the friend being like doing the actions or anything like that. It's kind of just Tosh saying, yeah, he's this, or yeah, he does this. You don't really get much of the friend. I can't think of the friend's name. They kept throwing in traits that didn't really build on them, or they didn't build them up. They were just kind of there. And even with the whole theorist kind of add-in, that was pretty much it. Once they mentioned it, it was never really mentioned again, because he's more of like a factoid kind of guy in like talk shows and stuff, but there was never really much else about him being a theorist. I thought that was weird, but throughout the book as well, it stops for a bit at chapter 10, I believe. You'll have a chapter, and then before you get to the next chapter, there'll be like a 0.5, where it's just like a paragraph or two of basically Tosh talking about the Boneyard, and it's like super set Boneyard talking, where it's this video game talk for like a paragraph or two, and like it's super game talk. Then we move on, and it's like this is reality, and it's mixing. Then when we get to 10, I think that's where is really gets compacting, and we get some more 0.5 chapters a bit more as we go, but they lessen after that, and that's when things are, I think, really are getting hard to distinguish between the two, and it's, again, confusing. It's very confusing. It's a very confusing but also a good book. I don't know how to describe it. It's weird. What started out as a contemporary style kind of book, which was what I thought it would be. I thought it would be contemporary. It kind of delved more into the fantasy, not really fantasy, but like fantasy, sci-fi, not probably like an action kind of adventure story, which it was an interesting take. It was an interesting direction to go. But there were also parts that were so confusing. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how we got to places. I was kind of pulled out of the story to be like, what? I don't know what to think about this book. That's just my big thing, is like parts of it were so confusing, and I get it was supposed to really mesh together and you weren't supposed to know what was real, what was not. But I don't know, some of it pulled me out of the story, and I couldn't really enjoy it that much because I didn't understand what was happening. How we got to certain spots from certain spots, I don't know. There's a lot of symbolism in this book. That was something I really enjoyed, was the symbolism. And one of the big symbols in this book were cockroaches. Because in the Boneyard, I guess, they're like cockroaches, or like kind of like bosses, kind of minions for the bad guy. And there was a lot of roach symbolism in here. They even say in the book, it's symbolic, don't you think? Like, if it wasn't symbolic enough, the whole trailer infestation thing, of course it would be symbolic. And it's another, just like, point out of like, wow, that's symbolic. Why are you so afraid of the truth? No, that's the accident. It goes more into detail about with the brother, how things kind of fall apart. No one can save you. It's a trip. Things really begin to unfold as you go through it. I was really happy when we learned about the brother's accident. So, because they kind of tease it throughout the whole book. It's mentioned, you get tiniest, like, scoops of detail. This is what the day was like. This is what the weather was like. Why do we do this? Why do we do things a certain way? Why couldn't you have just done this? And then you get the reveal of what happened with the brother's accident. And it was pretty crazy. Although sometimes it felt like Tosh was kind of falling into insanity with how he was viewing things, because he would be there 1 second, and then suddenly he's like pops back into the past. And at first he can kind of tweak what he says, and like he just starts falling into exactly what happened, and the events just replay, and he's there as the events replay. He's in his body, and he's redoing the events himself as it replays, and he can't change them. it's crazy, but I don't know, it's crazy. I don't know how, again, this book was so interesting to me. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it was so confusing. I really admire how it was written. I think it was written good, but at the same time, I think it was written confusingly. And that's, like, really tearing me about this book. I don't know. Amongst the warp of reality. Oop, there goes gravity. I enjoyed this book. Like I said, it was just confusing a lot of points. So, I think that's where I'm going to end this, and I'm going to pass the question off to you. Have you guys read Ascending the Boneyard? What do you guys have to say about this book? Do you know anyone that has read it? I'd love to hear some other thoughts on this book. I'm probably going to look up some, like I said, I'm probably going to look at the other reviews on Goodreads and see why they rated it the way they rated it, what their thoughts were. I mean, it's a very interesting book. If you haven't picked it up, if you've never heard of it, I recommend picking it up. It might still be in the clearance on book outlets, so such promo, even though it's like a not-sponsored thing. But, yeah, if you want to check it out, I think this was $1 something, if that, maybe under $1, because, believe me, I went super cheap when they gave me that $5 coupon. I made sure to only spend, like, 7 cents over. So, like, all I had to do was pay shipping, so, yeah. That's all I've got for you guys today. If you enjoy this book talk and you want to see more, go ahead and give this video all your thumbs in the upward direction, because it lets me know that you like these and you like kind of having this kind of discussion, even though it feels one-sided because I'm talking to a camera. You know. If you want to see some of my other book talks, there's a playlist right here you can check out. If you just want to see my last video, which was, I believe, the New Year's resolution book tag, check that video out, like, right here. If you want to subscribe, you can either click the button down there or my face right here. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you have a lovely day/night, and I'll see you later.